Hey, this is Brian Johnson with Finance and Commerce, and I'm pleased to be joined by Stacy Arnold, Director of Safety with the Associated General Contractors of Minnesota. Stacy has been with AGC Minnesota since May 2024. Previously, she wore a number of hats with RJM Construction, including Project Manager, Safety Manager, and Safety Director, and she graduated from Minnesota State University Moorhead with a Bachelor of Science degree in construction management. And Stacy also holds an architectural construction technology degree from St. Cloud Technical College. Did I get that right, Stacy?
You did. That's kind of the diversity of all the hats I've worn.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for joining me with the on the podcast. And I just gave a brief introduction there, but I was wondering to start out if you could just tell me a little bit more about your background in construction and how you became interested specifically in construction safety.
Well, that's excellent to explain kind of the path of my degrees as well. I started off my career in architectural design and worked for several different contractors in that area, mostly on the residential side, and had never wanted to get into commercial construction. But then we went into a recession, and that ultimately was the only place I could find a job. Um, and so I was a project manager for a design firm on the commercial side for many years before I decided to go back to school and got my construction management degree and realized that there was such a broader world to the industry than sitting at a computer and redlining plans. And so that's why I got into project management. And it was through I had done like the Gallup Strengths Finder or Clifton Strengths Finder to identify what my strengths were and was using that to develop some personal and professional development goals. And one of the things that had emerged from that was that that I like to gather information and then share that information with people, and I like to teach on various subjects, which actually I found that to be true when I looked back at my prior careers and jobs. And to me, that sounded a lot more like safety. RJM had an opening for safety at the time than what I was doing in project management. So I sat down with the then safety director and was like, tell me more about what you do. And the rest has kind of been history.
Well, and as we speak, it's Wednesday, May 6th, and we're right smack dab in the middle of Construction Safety Week. And the slogan for this year's theme is Recognize, Respond, and Respect. And the focus is preventing serious injuries and fatalities. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So Safety Week is does tend to be the first week of May every year, and it kind of contractors all interpret it a little bit differently as to how they focus. There is a focus on fall and fall prevention, but many contractors use it as an opportunity to just really kind of re-engage their workforce before the season gets really busy to focus and prioritize on safety. So they'll cover a variety of topics. Sometimes a lot of contractors this time of year also do their annual safety trainings where they're covering, some of their HASCOM, employee right to know aware programs that they're required to cover. But they really try and make it a fun, engaging week. Demonstrations on site that help educate on why safety is important. They do giveaways, things like that. So they try and make it a really fun week to engage the workforce in refocusing on safety.
And also, as we speak, you're currently at a convention, safety convention, I understand. What have you learned there, and how has that been going so far?
Oh, it's been great. Minnesota Safety Council puts on a really good conference every year during Safety Week down at the Mystic Convention Center. And we've had excellent speakers here talking about how to have conversations with leadership to make the business case for safety. We've had excellent keynote speakers talking just really about the distraction and how to keep your really like mind and your focus where your feet are. But we've also been covering a lot of other more like training outside the box and how to really engage people in training versus just, presenting with your PowerPoint. So it's excellent conference, covers a lot of broad topics.
Yeah, and you talked about, safety obviously is a huge issue in the industry, and I know that there's been a growing emphasis not only on physical safety but mental health as well. And AGC has done a great job of raising awareness about that, about mental health crisis in construction. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so when we talk about occupational fatalities in construction, we have what's called the Focus Four, and those are the four leading causes of fatalities in our industry. And it's fall, struck by, caught in between, and oh goodness, I'm going to blank on that one. So can we edit this out? And ultimately, so we have our focus for in this industry, which is leading cause of fatalities. And ultimately, when we look at the suicide rates for our industry, it's 5 times higher on any given year than people having an occupational accident and unfortunately losing their life. So it is a huge issue in the industry that we are trying to elevate the focus on to be equivalent to or more of a focus than when we focus on the physical aspects of the job. And so, Minnesota, our AGC of Minnesota is a founding partner of the Minnesota Health Alliance, and that's in partnership with the Minnesota Building Trades and Construction Trades, and then Mercury Creative Group. And we were recently awarded a $450,000 grant from Minnesota Department of Labor to really help elevate this focus in our industry. And that'll include anything from expanding prevention trainings, developing curriculums for the unions, and just really also collaborating not only with contractor partners, but trying to get support and elevating the conversation with ownership partners as well, because it's ultimately the conditions of bidding work and winning work and trying to get work done that put these pressures on contractors that trickle downhill to be demands of the workforce.
Well, we're hearing a lot about AI and technology and how that's improving processes in construction. And I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that on the safety front. How are we using technology to improve safety on construction sites?
We are starting to see a lot more emergent technology that is really starting to solve some challenges for the workforce for tasks that are, they say, they're dull, dangerous, or difficult. And these aren't, in this conversation, there often becomes well, I don't want a robot to take my job. And that's not really where we're focusing the industry is focusing its efforts, because the reality is we do have a workforce shortage, but let's focus our workforce on tasks where that they actually enjoy, where they feel productive, and ultimately we're not putting them in dangerous situations. So we're seeing some more robotic developments that help take some of those physically demanding tasks where you still have a skilled craft worker performing the work, but it takes that physicality out of it. We're seeing AI being used for basically documenting some of the paperwork. We're having our pre-test plans. We're having the collaborative conversation, but ultimately we're utilizing AI to fill out the paperwork piece, so the documentation is actually happening. And where some of that technology is really good too is it has a coaching side of it as well, where it will actually give feedback and track the growth or improvement or lack of improvement of a particular person's ability to lead that conversation and dialogue with workers. Um, There is some, there's starting to be some wearables as far as like for lone worker situations. We're not seeing too much of that coming out in kind of the contractors that I'm looking at and working with regularly. But that is starting to be something that's out there as far as like tracking and monitoring for medical event or being able to call for an emergency.
Yeah, I've heard about things like smart helmets and smart vests and even panic buttons that people can wear on their to call for help in the event of an accident. Any other sort of trends that you're seeing kind of on the equipment side of things?
I know there is starting to be some autonomous equipment that is starting to come out. Really only seeing use cases for that and kind of very large greenfield project situations where the equipment's running very repetitive work. And really, it is still controlled by an operator. So again, not looking to eliminate those jobs there, but we don't have enough skilled qualified operators to be in the seats. Um, Also, seeing kind of solutions. One big thing that's actually huge technological, and it's not necessarily an innovation, but a change in thinking for our industry is a lot of our contractors are moving more to prefabbing. And obviously, there's more work on the front end with needing to know what, where, and have all of our questions answered, but they're doing a lot more prefabbing in controlled environments, which also going back to that worker well-being conversation, it's, conditioned or heated, they have access to clean restrooms, running water, all these things while they're still performing their work. It can improve the quality and ultimately then it shortens the duration of the actual construction in the field because they're not having to assemble all these small pieces to build the project. They can bring in, bigger sections at a time and get those installed. So the actual in the field construction goes faster when they can do that on the front end. And so again, the workforce is still there, they're still needed, but it just kind of is a change to the job a little bit.
Hmm. And can you speak to where we're seeing as far as the trends for job-related fatalities or serious injuries? How wh how are we doing in that respect?
It's funny that you asked that question because that's actually been a really hot conversation in the industry. Department of Labor just recently published on their website that Minnesota incident rates are consistently trending down and reaching an all-time low. However, the fatality rate actually this year is on the rise, and that's not unique to Minnesota. It's actually an industry problem where we're seeing our incident rates decline, but that fatality rate is actually a pretty flat line year over year. And so the conversation that's trending with that is that the stuff that hurts people isn't the same that kills people. And
Mhm.
so kind of transitioning our shift to focusing on high energy um, hazards that have the potential to kill or very seriously injure our workforce and having controls in place that ultimately protect the worker even if somebody makes a mistake. And so that's been a really hot conversation in the industry where we're looking at that and we're celebrating that, but also celebrating those wins that when we do have something that happens, well, we've had the controls in place, everybody's okay, and nothing has happened, that we're celebrating those successes as well.
Hmm. Yeah, and just looking at the government data, it does seem like falls are always right there at the top of the list when it comes to leading causes of death in construction. And sadly, that just continues to be a concern. Curious to get your thoughts on that and what companies can do to prevent falls and protect their workers.
Yeah, so that's another really interesting statistic because SRLs became really prevalent in the early 2000s. As a best practice, we're encouraging contractors to get rid of lanyards because ultimately there's not a great use case for them. And so, like lanyards, when you look at your fall clearance requirements when you're clipping into them, you need 17 and a half feet is kind of the rule of thumb of fall clearance from your anchor point before that's actually going to arrest the fall. The reality is now even with the advancements of SRL technology, is that even though it will lock up when if you yank on it and test it, it'll lock up in 18 to 24 inches. If you're anchoring that at foot level, the fall clearance for that is often very similar to a lanyard where you still need 17 feet of fall clearance before that's going to arrest the fall. And so ultimately what I think it boils a lot down to a lot is that we really want fall protection to be super simple and just, their workforce seems to think that, just like, well, I'm connected, I'm good. But there's a lot more complexity there as far as really understanding the equipment, understanding the compatibility of the equipment, the quality of the anchor points, and what those fall clearance requirements actually are for the configuration that you're in. And so I think it's actually something that AGC did last week. We had a safety forum on fall protection where I talked about a lot of these limitations and why there does need to be more time and emphasis on training.
Yeah, well, there's certainly a lot to talk about here, and we have a limited amount of time. But I just want to, congratulate AGC on the leadership they've shown on this issue of construction safety, and give you a chance to, I guess, have the last word. And any particular initiatives you'd want to plug as far as the work you're doing or construction safety as a whole.
Right now, I would say I do these monthly safety forums from September until May. So we did just wrap those up. So I don't have anything new right now that I'm plugging. Well, actually, I guess I have a fall protection training that AGC is offering on June 11th that is available for both members and non-members to attend. So folks could check that out on our website and sign up. But as of right now, there is still space available um, from the fall protection piece. But I would just beyond that, we do these monthly safety forums, and I part of the reason I'm attending the conference today is I just want to be informed on new topics, good speakers, new suppliers out there that our members and folks want to get connected with. And then I bring them in and we have those conversations and discussions. And that's, like I said, monthly September through May.
Great. Well, it's been a great conversation, Stacy. Thank you for joining me, and I really appreciate it. And good luck in your ongoing efforts to promote safety and construction. It's a very important job. So,
Well, thank you for your time and reaching out.
thank you. Have a good day.
You as well.
Bye.
Bye.